What's going on, everybody? Dr. Average Gamer Guys back yet again into another Rocket League video, and today we're jumping into another episode of our Market Watch series. So again, you guys really seem to enjoy this one. We're bringing it back again. We're gonna do this probably every 2 or so weeks, just because shifts in the market take that amount of time. So today we're going to talk about a couple of items, some stuff that's still kind of trending up and down. I'll give some of my thoughts just generally on the trading community, and then I'm also in these invariably going to talk a little bit of trading tips as well. Just a couple of things that I see that hopefully be helpful to you, and just talk trading in general. So hopefully you guys enjoy. We'll have some gameplay in the background, nothing specific to show today. Just enjoy some gameplay from me and Sloth. Just hanging around having a little bit of fun. So as we jump into this, let's first talk about some of the trending items in the market, at least as far as what I'm seeing. And again, I do a lot of my trading specifically on Reddit. I'm on Rocket League Garage. I'm on some of the Facebook groups as well, so I feel like I have a general pretty good sense for the trading community. I'm not obviously an expert by any means, and this is by no means gospel or anything like that. Just what I'm overall seeing from the market. We talked last time, and there's a couple items that just continue to seem to be on the up and up. Apex being one, still continue to see just a general drive up. All the colors, which is interesting. White typically has been the best gainer and will continue to be the best probably mover up forwards. Just again, with the limited supply, the demand seems to be really high, but Apex in general seem to have a pretty high demand going on right now. All colors, and then specifically certified colors. I've been seeing quite a bit of the certifications do really well, and kind of continue to trend upward. That again, I think the only time that we're going to see a downtrend for Apex is if they get re-released, or if people stop paying the prices and stop paying for the demand of them. So that's one I just think you can probably take to the bank. And if you have some, now is honestly probably not too bad of a time if you're looking to pick up some keys, or if you're looking to get them. My general opinion to you is going to be pick them up now before they continue to rise in the future. And they've just made a steady climb. I do think the supply-demand thing is eventually going to weigh out, and you might see them kind of steady out a little bit, but they just, over the last couple weeks, seem to have been on a general trend up. Painted octanes as well seem to be in a general trend up as well. It's very slow, but it's really telling when even some of the baseline colors, your burnt siennas, your forest greens, your limes, some of the colors that have pretty stable prices, and again, always talking prices in keys relative to Xbox, but I feel like these trends are pretty general across the spectrum of different platforms that you play on. All of those seem to be taking a slow tick up as well, which is interesting because as that has happened, I've also seen a general slow riser of non-crate very rare. So talking in trading tips, if you guys aren't familiar with the series or haven't checked out a lot of the videos on the channel, I have some general trading 101. We did another market watch not too long ago that talked about some of these items, how to build your inventory. Non-crate very rares continue to still be a very good way to build your inventory. You can earn them simply just by playing, leveling up. The 2XP weekend that we just had is a great opportunity to be able to do that. But what's interesting is a couple of weeks ago, 24 of these, which is a pretty common metric amount to trade, was going for about 15 or 16 keys on Xbox. Lately, I've been seeing them trend closer to 17 to 18. I've seen 2 to 3 be very common, and I think this is just kind of showing that general trend is moving up. The supply of them isn't super great, but it is healthy. So I think the octane prices moving up. Titanium octane has continued to kind of very steadily climb. On Xbox, it's right around anywhere between 155 and 160 keys right now, and I think that has helped the non-crate very rare prices, as people are obviously trying to pick them up, hoping they get lucky, hoping they spike that white octane and then get this just crazy return, you could say, on their investment of non-crate very rares. Now, that obviously that math doesn't typically pan out, just because the total amount of items that you have to be able to get. First, you have to even just get the octane, and then from there, you have to get lucky enough to hit the one of 12 colors inside that wheel, that spectrum, if you will. But I think it has helped that general trend continue to move up, and I think non-crate very rares, we talked about the staples, especially on Xbox, where we haven't been able to trade keys for the entire for the entire history of Rocket League on the system. I think non-crate very rares still continue to be a very healthy item that you can really kind of consider currency, just like keys. What they traded has been very stable. It's at the top end. Your 24 trade has typically, over the last couple of weeks, has seen a little bit of a rise. So I think that's really interesting. Again, I think the supply of them is pretty healthy. They come up very often. People are constantly getting them. So I don't think that will continue to trend up very much higher than that. I feel like that's a pretty well established rate, but it has been interesting to watch over the last couple of weeks that they've made some moves up. The other thing that I'm seeing pretty typically is that PCCs have really leveled out, which I think is going to stay like that. I think we've talked about this before, but PCCs are another good opportunity if you're trying to trade your lower based items, so maybe items that people aren't necessarily going to pay a key for, or you're just having a hard time getting rid of. It's usually not a bad idea to turn those into a usable item, PCCs being one. The drop rate on PCCs has been really good. They kind of changed it around, and it's especially after the refresh has been very consistent, so I think that's important to kind of realize. And I think that trend is going to stay where it is for the time being until we see a new crate come out. When that new crate comes out, I think the PCC trade volume has a chance to waver a little bit, because again, there will be a new crate inside of the system. People will be playing to try to get it, so we might see that rate fluctuate a little bit. And then obviously, PCCs are going to do some wild fluctuating things moving forward, especially if we get a double painted weekend. Again, you can expect the rate on those to just be crazy, to be honest with you, especially if they do it at an extended weekend like they did the double XP. They give you 4 or 5 days of it. People that have a bunch are going to be trying to trade them. People are going to be wanting to pick them up, so it's not a bad investment to try to pick up a couple and hang on to them, again, especially if you end up having items that you're just having a hard time getting keys or non-crate very rares for. PCCs generally across all platforms. Now granted, it seems like on PS4 and even maybe PC to a certain extent, crates trade for even less comparative to keys than they do on Xbox, which is I fully expect that to happen, just because on Xbox they used to be a currency. They used to be something that you could trade your items into, and people would always be trading for them because that's really what we use. Now that we have keys, that's definitely started to go the way of the other platforms, and I actually expect to see that here kind of continue to get closer to those values in the near future. Again, especially with keys being tradable. So it's interesting to watch those. The other thing that I've seen that I think is really interesting with the market is that item certifications have really gotten a lot of attention. They've always gotten a lot of attention, but people are really starting to pay for their top end values on different items. We can point to Octanes and we can point to Apex, just because those for me are the ones that stick out a lot, especially on the trading forums. But it's just really interesting to see that people are, not only understanding values, but really applying values, especially to your top tiers. Your striker, your tactician, and your sweeper seem to be getting a lot more love, and I think people, especially big collectors, are coming out. People are advancing their inventories. That's one thing to kind of consider and remember, is that those baselines for those items is really what people are willing to pay for them. Yes, they can have general values. I know, I get this question a lot. How do you value your items? Where do you go to see prices? How do you understand the market? The biggest thing I'll tell you is, again, I'm not a spreadsheet person. I don't use RL Tracker, whatever that website is. I don't use any of that. I have used spreadsheets in the past. I have referenced them. Is a good way. That's a good way to get a baseline, especially if you're new into the trading scene. You're having trouble maybe even figuring out where to start with an item. It's not a bad idea to check out one of those sites. I'll say that. Beyond that, though, if you really want a good value for what your item is you got to go onto those platforms. You got to go on Xbox. You got to go onto Reddit. And you got to do a price track. You got to also search and understand the history of that item, especially with something with a really good certification. Again, your striker, your tactician, your sweeper, even to a certain extent your guardian. Some of those top tier certs, your scorer, depending on the item, it's going to have a pretty significant change in the value of it. And it's a good idea to go search that item, see what people have paid for it in the past, see what people are offering for it, and then you can really base on your value around that. It's a common thing I see, and this was kind of kind of getting into the tips portion of the video, but one thing I wanted to talk about and kind of a little bit more of an advanced level of trading is, and I see this a lot, especially, again, I do a lot of my trading on Reddit. I see this a lot on Reddit where people will post a store or they will post a significant list of items. And it's always really telling to me of the values that people will put on their items. You know, we've talked about this before in previous episodes of this, but not everything is worth a key. Not every item that you have is worth a key. No matter what a spreadsheet or anything else will tell you that, I can tell you that your fidget spinner wheels are not worth a key. Now, you might find somebody that will trade a key for them, in which case take that immediately and do it. But just understand that not everything is worth a key. And it's always interesting to me, and I do this, I have this issue from time to time as well, but I post a large store, I have a lot of items. You guys know I do a lot of crate openings, which turns into a high volume of items. What's interesting for me is I'm in the methodology that I just want to move those items, right? I want to move those. I want to either move them into more crates, so obviously I can do more crate openings, move them into keys, or move them into non-crate very rares. I will take an underpay, quote-unquote underpay, on some of my items just because it allows me to turn them into more easily tradable items, or more easily usable items, for instance. And I always find that really interesting, and again, do a lot of trading on Reddit, that sometimes you walk into people's store, if you will, or walk into the list, they might not have values listed, and you make an offer on an item, probably a pretty fair offer, or sometimes you might just be asking, you might be asking for what they value that item at. And typically it's always interesting to me that those people, and I'm using big generalizations here, typically seem to, if your store remains large, and a lot of times, sometimes it's those people that are willing to take a slight bit of underpay, if you will, for those items in order to move them into more easily tradable things, instead of making that trade. And this is just a general recommendation for anybody out there. If you're sitting on a bunch of items, if you're sitting on a big inventory, you feel like you've really started to collect this mass of items, and it's just a whole bunch of stuff that you're having trouble getting rid of, I really recommend you to take a look at the values that you're placing on things. Now granted, it is nice to a certain extent having a big volume of items, because sometimes you will find really good deals on them. If you have that certain color or certification of a wheel and there's somebody out there collecting it and is willing to pay a good value for it, yeah, you're going to kind of hit what I would call a little bit mini of a jackpot. You're going to do really well on that item. But the instances of that being are usually few and far between, and they're usually very specific, and those can be hard to come across. I hear this a lot. People always ask, how did you build your inventory? How did you work your way up? Well, again, one, I open a lot of crates, so I spend literal money to get the keys to be able to then open the crates. I trade those keys for crates. So that's how I've built my inventory. But I've also built my inventory because I don't sit on items that I'm not going to use, and I don't hold this, specific value for every single item. If I feel like I'm getting a decent value out of the item, let's say just any kind of color, cert, very rare wheel, and I can pull a non-crate very rare or something out of it for that, I'm probably going to make that trade. Now again, this is very general speaking because some very rare wheels are worth a little bit more than that. But let's take, for instance, like Yamains, or let's take Gaydens, or let's take Reapers, anything from the PCC crate. Painted versions of those, you may be able to, on some of the off colors, not your blacks and whites obviously, but some of the off colors, you might be able to find somebody willing to pay a key for your orange Yamains, for instance. How many people out there are willing to do that? Not very many. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to pay a non-crate very rare for that, though, because to them that might be slightly lower than the value. They might feel like they're getting a pretty good deal, and I'll tell you that you end up turning that item into something that's much more easily tradable. I can then collect those and then turn those non-crate very rares into keys. By doing that, by accepting a little bit of an underpay on an item and turning it into something easily more tradable, again, a non-crate very rare or a key specifically, you're going to have a lot more success in then turning your keys into other items or finding deals to then help continue to grow your inventory. So it's just very interesting, and I see that a lot. I wanted to comment on that. And people always have that hard point. I have all these items that I can't trade. How many times have you been talking to somebody or seen somebody talk about, I just have all these items and nobody wants them? That's not necessarily true. People want them. but people are not willing to pay, a lot of times not willing to pay face value, especially not willing to pay face value at what you deem might be worth a key, and in fact reality may not be. And I can tell you, you'll have a lot more success in the trading game if you move those items, turn them into more easily tradable items, and then build your inventory from there. Because what's interesting is if you can sit yourself on even a little bit of a stockpile of keys, you can then find the good deals when they do come up. People are quick selling. People are, might be quitting the game or moving from one platform to another. And they're willing to let some of their better items go for a key or two less. You can then pick those items up, sell those items. Let's take Octanes for instance. You can then sell those items at full face value, where they do have a very well set price, or might even have some room for growth in the future. And then right there, you get a couple of keys out of that flip, if you will, and you can kind of continue moving from there. I just feel like I see a lot of this, especially for newer traders or traders that haven't really been trading for a long time. They get kind of stuck in this mentality that they have to make this crazy profit on every trade. That's really not true. If you can make your minimal profit, if you can kind of continue to move items, if you can put together bundle bulk deals, I can tell you, as you trade, as you get more into the game, as you trade, as your items and your collection grow, you're going to be finding a lot more success. And what's nice again is this is all coming from a baseline that you guys should be out there trading for something that you enjoy. I can't tell you that enough. Trading, if you let the profit trading mentality get to you, it's absolutely going to grind you down, and at some point you won't enjoy it anymore. It's just so clear to see, and unfortunately we've gotten to this mentality where somehow somebody made some great deals, and you see people post these great deals all the time. And what's interesting to me is if you really do the math on that, and again, some of you might not be at an age where you can go out and have a job and make real money, but just wait to get to that point. I can guarantee you that the money that you'd be making on trading, while you might hit a big score every once in a while, on average you're going to make way less than minimum wage over the course of the time. So take that as this is just my advice again to all the traders out there. If you're looking to make profit in the game, look to make profit for something that you want. Work your way up to a certain item. Okay, that always is going to be way more beneficial. You're going to enjoy the challenge, and you're going to enjoy the way there a ton more than you would if you're literally just trying to make quote unquote money off of this game. It's very hard to do that, and even if you do, in general, you're not going to make very much. So really just recommend take that as your baseline. Hopefully my tip is helpful for you, and hopefully just, again, I may have a different trading mentality than some of you out there, but hopefully you guys can enjoy it and enjoy the video and enjoy just what we're doing on the channel. I am always more than willing to help with trading tips. I'm always more than willing to answer any questions in the comments. So if you have questions in the comments, or you're really curious about again, my methodology for trading, I can't talk tonight, please feel free. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of the gameplay, and these are just some general trends I'm seeing. So if you see something else, if you're big in any of the trading communities, or you're just doing a lot of trading yourself and having some success, please share that. Please share what's working for you. Again, I think we have a lot of people, this game is very heavy in the customization side of things, that this is a very real part of the economy, of part of this game. I know I'm fully entrenched in it, but it's always helpful to share those helpful tips, share what's working for you, and again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the gameplay. Thank you so very much for watching. Again, we'll try to do this every once in a while, every 2 weeks or so. Seems like a pretty good pace for it as we kind of keep our eye on it. We'll see again what's coming up with the new crate. It'll be really interesting to watch the prices on some of those items, especially with what that new crate has to bring. Same thing with Rocket Pass. Rocket Pass has been very interesting to watch, how the items and everything started to where they are now, which is very low, by the way. So we will keep our finger on our pulse on that. And as always, just really appreciate all the support. If you're new, hit that like, comment, subscribe button. We really do appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter, Xbox Average Gamer Guys Club. I've been Doc with the Average Gamer Guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.